I'm very proud this is not a museum of modern art. On the contrary, it's a place of cutting-edge science and medicine where people come with real problems, suffering from cancer, from brain disease, from going blind. And we've tried to help them by using the architecture itself as therapy. The sea is therapy, the sky, nature itself. Beauty as therapy, really.
So the beginnings lie in the will of a man who was a great entrepreneur, actually a genius in his job. António Champalimaud, his name, had created a foundation which was dedicated to human health. He was a man who looked for results. He certainly wanted his money, his wealth, in areas where we would make a difference in preventing and treating disease. And so we came to this idea, what is called translational science. So knowledge which is used to have results, which in our case would be about preventing and treating disease.
Join me in congratulating Dr. Williams for his innovative application of adaptive optics and Drs. Fujimoto, Pugliafito, Swanson, Wang, and Schumann for the development of OCT on their richly deserved receipt of this year's Champalimaud Vision Prize.
We did a deep study about what could make sense in the 21st century to do regarding put together research and clinic, and to do something that would be person-oriented, people-oriented, not just a basic science or just clinical, but something that could, in the whole, make some sense and be oriented to people. And in that area, we did two main choices, cancer and neuroscience.
The cancer program aims at doing clinical research and applied research in order to achieve innovations and better results in the treatment of cancer as a whole, aiming at the control of the disease and ultimately the cure of cancer. In order to do research, you must have not only doctors with their mindsets prepared to do research, but also you must interact continuously with investigators of more basic and fundamental sciences. That goes from biology to biochemistry to physics to mathematics to bioinformatics to biostatistics and so on, and then to translate those knowledges into the bed of the patient, into the patient again, and that's what we call, or is called generally, translational research.
Cancer patients can now benefit from very advanced and effective means of treatment, both in the field of chemotherapy and radiation therapy. And radiation therapy is one of those fields that has advanced the most, utilizing cutting-edge technology. We have been able, over the past few years, to implement this technology in such a way that we can spare the critical organs, the organs that would normally suffer from the treatment, in a way that the treatments can result in excellent cure rates with minimal complications.
In the neuroscience part of the research, we want to understand how the brain works, and especially how it produces behavior, how it does all these marvelous things that allow us to be ourselves. How is it that it can help us perform a simple action like reaching for a glass of water, how it enables us to talk and say meaningful things or sometimes not so meaningful. So we want to understand how is this all happening in the brain, how it emerges in the brain, and what are the specific circuits inside the brain or the molecules that generate all the behavior that we have and we see in the animal world.
We don't know where the land will be found. We are going beyond the horizon. We're trying to go beyond the horizon, and it would be foolish for us to all send our missions in exactly the same place when we don't know where we'll find a true discovery.
The interaction between basic science and clinic is one of the most challenging aspects in modern science. Typically, in many places, people are in separate buildings or institutes. This building that we are in was designed to facilitate that interaction. The way that things are designed around here leads not only to formal interaction but to informal, casual interaction, and I think that's a very important first aspect. The space here includes a lot of open shared areas and some enclosed places that are also shared. This per se promotes interaction between people. The challenge is that, of course, if you have interaction all the time, you cannot have peace of mind to work. So there are also some more secluded places, and the functional organization of the place is still evolving, still dynamic, because we're occupying it. So the structure where we are helps interaction. That's the first point. The building per se is very beautiful, and it is a statement. So typically buildings for science are traditionally, they are not especially beautiful or especially inviting. To have a building like this in a country like Portugal, a small country with difficulties in investment in science is a statement. It's something that doesn't go unnoticed. So when I come here and sometimes I'm discouraged and I see there is a statement, a solid statement, that even if I feel like, oh, I can't work very well this week, or these such and such things are not working so well, so you feel discouraged, there's a statement saying this is something to stay.
This really is a historic river. When you think of the great navigators who came down this river, and this act of courage it took when you reach the ocean to turn left and go down towards the coast of Africa. They probably got the maps from the Moors, for instance. I mean, the Moors must have had the Muslims had this idea of that whole part of the world, but no European had ever gone that way. And so it was a journey into the unknown. And that's a wonderful metaphor for what science does. I mean, it is a journey into the unknown. So when I saw the site, I knew we must actually make that connection. But another thing happened when I first saw the site. It was evening. I had just come in from Bombay and I was on my way somewhere else. It was raining. The gate was locked. So we had to walk along the curve out there. And I said, I want to see where the river joins the ocean. And Jean said, it's just a little further, and we never found it because rain was coming down. We had no overcoats. But I think that was very important because since I didn't experience the site except along the curve, I was very aware of the curve of the site. When I went to sleep that night in the hotel, I knew we must make a project that when you enter it, you are aware that there's an ocean out there, that there's this world which you have of the unknown, and you have to have the courage to go and see it. So it really is celebrating the history of Portugal. I would think the defining moment, you could arguably, the defining moment of their history. And yet it is done in the context of new work to be done.
In this building, people that came here, people in Lisbon that came here, they can see the importance of science, the importance of the treatment, and the people that are here doing science or treating people can see the importance of the people and that the work is to that people. And this combination between the city and the people and the researchers and the clinicians that are here are very, very, very important. And this is one of the most important issues, is put everything together, even the building. This is a part of the project. It's not neutral, it's a part of this project.
If I can explain you a little bit about the experience of living and working in this building, I would tell you a curious impression that is my own. Because the first time I arrived here, I was in fact overwhelmed with the beauty of the building. But I thought to myself, how can we work in here? in terms of clinical activity that we usually do in a much more conventional, let's say, building. And the first ideas in order to organize the functional areas of the clinic, we thought we must change a lot of things. And then, as the time was passing, we became realizing that that was not the case. Because in fact, we don't need to change anything. We just need to adapt to the building. And particularly in oncology, as you know, one of the main areas of treatment is the administration of chemotherapy, which is sometimes a very long, tedious and painful, let's say, sometimes, procedure. And for that we have a place that doesn't look like a hospital. You sit in a chair that you feel like you are at home, you can see your TV program or work in your computer, have your friend besides you. So it's again something that can be done without creating what is conventional hospital atmosphere. And that's a big success, I can say. And we are increasingly recognizing a very well thought building in order to achieve precisely what we are doing.
It's a marvelous building. Working in the building and coming to understand the architecture is something that takes a long time. There are many elements to the building that you only begin to appreciate after you have been living in them for some time. So we've been here now 2 years, a bit more than 2 years, and I still feel very much as if I'm discovering things about the place. And this is the same case for working in any other great building like the Salk. But this place makes an immediate impression. I mean, especially from the outside or in the spaces near here where the window opens onto the sea. It's a dramatic building, no doubt.
And this building has sort of the shape of a ship departing, and has the big windows of a ship. Now, in modern world, we know a lot about the geography of the Earth, but there are a lot of unknowns. So I imagine this ship departing to understand what our brain is and how to improve treatment for cancer. And so this is another, it's a metaphor, but you work inside the metaphor.
Of course, architecture is sculpture, but it's sculpture for use, for human use. And so it has the openings for light, air, doors, windows, and it's very important that those openings don't spoil the sculpture, but they make it more perfect, more beautiful. It has the gestures of human occupation. That is what architecture is about. You know, this really is a kind of non-building, because the walls you're looking at, these big curved walls, they really could be landscape. They're really creating this pathway to the Atlantic Ocean, which is the whole point of the site. And the nice thing about these walls is that they also divide the site into the public areas, which is given back to the city of Lisbon, to the citizens, to come and enjoy this place. And then the semi-private areas, which is where the science and the medicine takes place. And they coexist in a kind of thing which the Chinese call yin-yang, which is wonderful. Both yin and yang, one is positive, one is negative, are equally important. So the public space here is 50% of the site given back to the city by the foundation, but it still keeps enough for this work, research work, to go on. And these walls with their big cutouts, etc., allow enough privacy for the public. They don't feel that they're disturbing patients. And for the patients, they have enough privacy that they don't feel they have people looking at them. And this all comes from really very old principles. And of course, at the end of this walkway is where you reach the river and then the ocean. But first you see this body of water, where you have this enigmatic object in it. It could be an island, it could be a jellyfish, a Portuguese man of war. It's what you go in search of. It's what drives you to discover. So that is the analogy which ties the great navigators to today's scientists, both here in Portugal, both on the same site.
This building is extremely beautiful. This center is extremely beautiful. It sits in a very special place in Lisbon, in a historical part of Lisbon, and it pays tribute to the meaning of this area of the city. And there's only an architect who is a genius, could design, could understand, and could make happen. And so I said, we are extremely privileged to have him and have him as our architect.
A building cannot move, and that is both its handicap but its great strength, because a building is rooted in its place, in the climate, in the soil, in the materials, in the culture, and in the aspirations. And I think that's what a building has to express. So history is part of it, aspirations equally, and what we are talking about in this river is aspirations which made history.